Oh, that's Mike in the background, yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't know that we're going to have anybody else available today. I know John Scholl is traveling, Bob Rieger is traveling, and Michelle Massey emailed in that she wasn't available, so this might be all we have. But we will record this so we can share the meeting and Jack's presentation with the community a little later. Um, Patrick, I'm muting you real quick, so I'm getting a lot of background noise. Feel free to unmute yourself when you want to talk. Okay, so action items, I don't think we actually need to go through today because this is all sort of in progress stuff, things that I'm working on with John, which we'll proceed with once he's back in town, things that Alex and I are working on together. This is all just in progress, so I'm not going to spend time going through all those today. We will move right into our agenda. I was hoping to have a chance to introduce our new colleagues, Ed Grieg and Claire Hanby. Oh, I misspelled Ed's name here. It's E-I, not I-E. And I don't know if they'll be able to join in today, but if so, we'll have them introduce themselves. They're with Deloitte. I believe they're based in the UK, and they're getting involved now. So hopefully they'll be with us later and can give us an introduction. So today, Jack is going to be giving us a bit of a presentation to show us a platform he's been working on for real-time customization of e-NABLE devices. And if you want to go ahead and share your screen, Jack, I'll go full screen on my end here.
Yeah, cheers. I'll just share that real quick. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Cool. So this is the platform I was working on.
Jack, I'm sorry to interrupt. I actually just, I sort of forgot that I had just agreed to Maria, since she has a lot of noise in her background. She wanted to give her update first. Do you mind if we let her do that before we go into this?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I forgot all about that. Maria, do you want to go ahead and do that first?
Oh, sure. I'm so sorry, Jack. So just as an update, so we are moving forward with a collaboration with FabLab on their curriculum building platform. And so I'll be interested in showing that off when we have more of that ready, but it will allow people to have not only a repository for curriculum, but it will also allow them, in the process of sharing it, to construct and print out new lesson plans and share those lesson plans. So it's a great way for us to be able to collaborate, not just on things for the formal classroom, but also on things that we're doing to teach people informally. And I was hoping that we would also be able to use this in collaboration with the people who are creating the designs, so that this will be a way for us to tie in the skills that people are getting as they're making the devices, or as they are learning them, because they might be something new that we're introducing to the community. So I wanted to share that. Another thing with the education effort is that Camp e-NABLE at the University of Maryland will be the first week of July, and that we're coordinating with other chapters who are also holding activities the same week. It might not be a full-fledged camp, but we'll be doing some of the activities in common, and so we'll be able to introduce the activities together, to talk together, and then to show each other what we've done at the end of the activity, so that we can see that good ideas are coming from everywhere, and we'll also be able to cheer each other on, but as a way of building community. Some of the hands that we've received that we weren't able to gift because of various flaws, I'm pulling together for an artist workshop as part of the outcomes from the Girl Power event that we'll be doing on March 3rd. So they'll learn about the devices and how they work. They'll learn about quality control and troubleshooting, but we're going to turn some of those flawed devices into artistic efforts that we'll be able to share, and that we'll be able to see at the gallery at the conference the October 10th through the 13th. And so I just also wanted to thank Christian Silva, because as part of the orientation and leader training that we're doing this weekend, we'll be Skyping with him. He's going to be using some of the Camp e-NABLE activities for his in his his body modification workshop. They started it last weekend. The kids designed their own devices. They have been printing, and they'll be assembling and gifting, fitting gifting those this weekend. So we'll be in touch with them, and we're going to be coordinating with some of the other leaders as well. So we're going to record that for people, and maybe edit some of that down because we're getting used to the technology. But I'm glad that we'll be able to have people present their own work and to speak for themselves, and to also begin helping people represent themselves more to the community, so we can reflect the community back to itself. So the last thing that we were able to do was to work with Hindenburg. It's a company that creates podcasting software. And so if there are people who are listening who are interested in creating audio or video journals, and they're interested in joining us in the storytelling projects that we're getting started, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to share some of the Hindenburg licenses with you, and we can work together on learning it and editing that together, be able to have that be something that we do as a community to, again, to allow people to speak for themselves and to develop the different kinds of communication that we do across the ages and levels of skill. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Maria. So let's jump back now to Jack. So again, Jack is going to present a platform he's been working on for customization of e-NABLE devices. So Jack, if you want to share that screen again.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, just to add to Maria's work with the Fab Lab, we actually do that kind of with the local Fab Lab here. So I think I'll send you on some of the workshops that were kind of generated by people volunteering in the Fab Lab, which I think might tie into your stuff, but I'll send you a separate email about it. Okay, so just I'm going to show you guys the OCR toolkit. So it's just, like Jen was saying, platform for customizing the e-NABLE devices. This would be kind of just based on my master's work, and just want to jump straight into this is what the devices would look like in a configurator. The idea, hopefully, is that we could create some sort of configurator where family members are able to go on and in real time pick the e-NABLE devices and customize them to their own kind of personalities and to create a unique device. So I was able to upload the Phoenix on V2. I can go more into what kind of technical requirements are required to get an e-NABLE device onto the platform. But you're able to select different components of the device, but also pick from a different range of different configurations. So we can create these before, or we can see kind of what are the most popular, and then we could kind of generate them in real time. And then the idea is, once they're happy with the one they like, they can click here, add to cart, and then that would in turn give the volunteer fabricator kind of a breakdown on what exactly is, let's say, the task at hand to fabricate, like, corresponding colors to different components on top of taking the measurements. So what else the toolkit can generate is, on top of, like, let's say, the breakdown of each order, it could also, I also host the files in STL format. So I have the individual files, but I also have the files grouped for printing already. So for instance, I just have some of them here. We can have, like, say, the pins grouped all together in one. So if the pins were in black, you just stick on one STL and click print. I've already kind of shown this to the fabricators in Ireland. I think got some really interesting feedback. Ranging from 1 and 2, it'd be cool to take the measurements and do the scaling online. Some sort of tick feature that as you're printing, you can kind of go back to the orders page and say, like, this is printed. One kind of feature that was really interesting was, as they were fabricating, they like the feature of of the status bar here. I'll show you that. And they're able to kind of see like what's the status of this request, let's say. So it's more like a V1, and I'm hoping that a lot of the feedback from this work here could just be used as kind of the requirements that could some way benefit the overall OCR tool, e-NABLE Web Central. Some of the feedback as well in terms of, let's say, the fabricator, the volunteer perspective on the family side is adding testimonials, far more images of the device on a child, on a person, to get a sense of scale. And also anyone who's gone through the toolkit already would be like a success story, but all in one location. One fabricator who has made 3 devices in the past saw the configurator as almost like a online coloring book and thought that would be really engaging, or kind of a good way to get the kids really involved in the process. But yeah, that's just a quick overview of the work. I can put in all the links to like this website here in the notes section for the meeting. But I'll just go back to the main page there. But yeah, that's just a very quick overview of my work. Any feedback would be grateful. Thank you.
Nicely done. Thanks, Jack. So Jack showed this to me a few months ago. I was very impressed, and we were hoping that we could incorporate this kind of thing into e-NABLE Web Central as a way of letting people customize the devices and then actually generating the scaled STL files for the volunteer. And there's lots of improvements we could make with this. So we did get connected, thanks to Jack, with a representative of the company that owns SolidWorks. That's the tool that's behind this, SolidWorks Cell. And they said that they are willing to offer a free license to the e-NABLE community. We haven't gotten that licensing agreement yet, so I haven't been able to move forward. But I'm hoping that we will be able to incorporate something like this into e-NABLE Web Central. It won't look exactly like this, but the idea of real-time 3D previews and the ability to pick colors and that sort of thing. So I'd love to hear anyone else's feedback, or if anyone has questions. Everyone else is muted.
On the second to last feature for the status bar, is that a status of the actual configuration you're doing, or is it like a CRM system where the client can see what's being processed and at the same time the fabricator can see what they still need to do? Is that
yeah,
I was looking at it on a phone.
Oh yeah, so I've actually kind of hijacked an e-commerce platform to be the backbone, to be the scaffolding for this kind of configurator. So, like the actual configurator I'm using is called SolidWorks Cell, and it was originally designed for e-commerce platforms for custom products. I saw it and I was like, that'd be really handy maybe for the e-NABLE devices. So I've kind of created this platform which does use a lot of the same terminology for like map tracking normal sales order. But yeah, to the status, the feature below the status feature was would be if that was updated, they would also send like an automatic email to the family saying that like, oh, your order is at like this stage.
Okay, so it's more of a fabricator tool versus for the consumer tool. Like it's different than the actual consumer customization tool.
Yeah, I think what I realized when I was making it is that it's and the kind of the feedback I got from the fabricators who've shown it to and they've used it were it's just like a structured process flow for them, just to see like where they're at. Okay, I need to print this. Tick, keep going. Tick. Is there a problem with this? I can state that I'm working on this section here.
Okay, so it can also be like a help desk. I'm just thinking because like in terms of the communication, like Jeremy uses e-NABLE Web Central, how could that tie in with that? Are you going to be doing the same step twice, or do you have that stay as like the dedicated portal for that, and have this be the, dedicated portal for this, or is there a whole system where it is all sort of just integrated? I don't think I really have an answer yet, but it's kind of cool if you have any idea.
I think that just what you're seeing in front of you is just the prototype, just to, test the waters, as they say. I think that elements inside this can be taken out and implemented far more in e-NABLE Web Central. I don't think it'll be, like taking it outside of e-NABLE Web Central. This is just, this was kind of just a means for testing for my own masters. So like at the end of that, that'll be done, and the work will be maybe carried on in some way useful.
I think it's cool. I just see, I don't know what its limitations are. I'm like, well, can it do that? Can it do that? I have no clue, but it does look, from a consumer standpoint, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Some of the things that we'd have to consider as volunteers would be, let's say, like what type of configurations would we make available? Like, for instance, I have like the 4 palm fingers as one option, because if, let's say, I made every single component unique that you can change every color, the tabs here on the right would just be really long. You'd have over 10 tabs for finger 1, 2, and 3. So we don't want to have like mass confusion or like that burden of too much choice. But at the same time, we got to find that sweet spot.
And we talked about the idea of maybe using this also to add in like customizations. For example, like maybe a themed add-on. There's other things you could choose, like optional add-on components or elements and things like that here. So there's a lot that this could be used for in terms of customizing or choosing alternate versions of a device, or maybe you need one that is has a no thumb, so it has a gap where the thumb goes. There's things like that you could present as options in this interface too.
Yeah, we can create those kind of links where, let's say, if the starting part was the palm, but like as Jeremy said, no palm, a palm with no thumb. If that was an option below, it would have a knock-on effect on pulling all the different components for it. So we could add, let's say, sometimes you see like the Captain America shield on top, right. So you can have different accessories coming in and out.
It won't say like you're missing this component, like you finalize when you finalize.
Yeah, so like within this configurator, it's like we only can pick every option they see can be produced by us. We wouldn't give them an option where there'd be conflicting parts or it wouldn't fit. So we'd
in the omitting, like if you omit a finger or whatnot, is it not going to say, hey, you have to select an option, or can you just push that through?
There wouldn't be an option if there was 0. So like every tab here would have a minimum of 1 part. So let's say if there was like one where like, do you want to remove it or not, we'd actually have to do a bit of tweaking to like have like an invisible component, let's say. But yeah, we can do it in the future.
I mean, we can handle all that stuff in code. The long-term plan is to integrate this into e-NABLE Web Central. And I love the flexibility that it gives. I love the ability to preview your device. In fact, I've already modeled a kind of a thermoformed version of that gauntlet so we could actually show it the way it will look, once it's produced. But then when we generate the STL files, we would generate this flattened version that you're seeing here. So we could do a lot of really nice things with that. My only hesitation with this, and I don't think I mentioned this to you before, Jack, is that if we give people this ability to customize things and they get really fancy and they pick these nice colors and they have 3 or 4 different colors in it, we are putting a bit more of a burden on the volunteer then to try to match those color options. So they need to maybe go out and buy filaments, whereas I think what's happening right now is it's a little bit more of kind of a back and forth where the volunteer might say, hey, these are the colors I have available, which of these would you like? And they're kind of working from what they have. So my only concern is that this might put a little bit more of a burden on the volunteer to have to go out and buy filaments because they don't have the colors that are being requested.
Yeah, and actually that would be, right now I have available all the colors available in the local e-NABLE group. Mm-hmm. So everything here is unique to that e-NABLE chapter. So maybe, down the line, it would be a case of if you're going to create a profile, you would have to not just say what hands are you experienced with, but what materials do you personally have available.
Oh, there's an interesting idea. Yeah, so we could have the volunteer specify what they have available, and that becomes the options to the.
To kind of
have like a die lot inventory or something, like go to Home Depot, they don't get like a die lot, and then allocate that as an item. So, oh, we have no yellow this month.
Yeah, so that would be like you just turn off. It's really quick within the SolidWorks system to add and remove material on a desktop.
So we, if we did that, we'd have to make it so that when if you get multiple volunteers offering to help, we'd have to give some way of seeing what colors each one has available, and you might make your decision that way. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
You could hit like a radio button. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, radio button.
Each individual volunteer.
Actually, one also thing that I got feedback on was to add the components of like the non-3D printed components, like the fabrics and stuff. So like, different different fabrics, different colors and textiles.
That's a good idea
which
too.
e-NABLE had. We have all the. We have SolidWorks that provided like some base templates for wool, for instance, and we can add our own ones as well. They started to create their own online tutorials as well to kind of help people get familiar with this software.
Yeah, I'm sitting. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is impressive. I'm just listening to the Ballot Exchange. I actually had the same thought that Jeremy did. I said, oh well, that would mandate everyone having those colors. But I like your solution where volunteers have profiles, and then they select or even identify which colors they can support, and then someone would choose a hand from that pre-configured set. So that sounds pretty smart.
It does add a little bit of complexity because we'd have to let them specify the materials as well as the colors. Some guy might have a few colors of PLA, but he also has some PETG, and now it adds some complexity in terms. You know what I'm saying?
Well, technically, you don't necessarily have to say that it's PLA.
You don't have to. No, that's true.
And actually, there's a display name and like the raw material name. So for us, let's say fabricators, we know it's PLA green, but as an option here, it could just be green.
Okay, so just let the requester pick the color, and then let the volunteer pick the material based on what they have or what they think is best.
Right.
Give it a SKU too. Just give it a SKU. Throw it on one of those civil systems.
Yeah, this actually SolidWorks still has that. We can add custom SKUs to each material and each component, so that when, let's say, you have the palm in green, it actually gives you a combined SKU for that.
Okay, I've got a technical question on this. Can we pass parameters to whatever? I'm not exactly sure how this would be packaged. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to pass parameters to it to indicate specific sets of values which are available, whether it's canned hand or a set of colors.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Okay, so like maybe this is an iframe, or is this okay? It's an iframe. Okay.
The SolidWorks Cell platform, Alex, that this is developed with, that back end platform. That's what lets you define these groupings. Like if you look at the bottom of the screen, those are kind of like templates that he's defined of like pre-built color sets or pre-built styles. So you can set up those groupings of parts and colors and options on the back end and decide what you want to make available.
My intuition is, again, right now with us focusing on getting recipients to go through the process, I don't know I'd want them to have the ability to pick and choose things like at a granular level. But the pre-packaged hands, I think that's something that people could really digest. And so if there's a way we could communicate. Now, on the other hand, having volunteers be able to go in and configure individual groupings and colors makes sense. Right now, it's just getting people to take photographs. I'm worried about scaring them off. Unless someone says, hey, I really want to go in and make those selections, that's fine. For the average user, I just want them to be able to choose as if they're going to a grocery store.
So maybe it's maybe it's more like
a Zelda edition or something.
Maybe it's just a message. I mean, maybe the person requesting the device then just communicates to the volunteer, hey, I'd love to have it look like this, and then the volunteer could be the one to use this tool to kind of mock it up to look the way they think it needs to look, and based on what they have available, and then sort of give that to the user to preview.
Right. And then, but obviously the other part of it is that whatever's emitted is the final STL files, which
That's
the
right.
volunteer work with anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. So it kind of goes from that kind of co-design platform between volunteers and recipients to a fabrication aid or
Right.
like a volunteer aid.
Right.
And the nice thing is that, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, Alex, but if we have this tool set up where it then generates all of the individual STL files at the proper scale that are needed for the final design, we can then track those individual components, within e-NABLE Web Central, and let the fabricator kind of check them off as each part is printed, so we can kind of help manage that work.
Right. And that's stuff which would be volunteer centric. I think right now, when I'm coming at this with the caution as to the user experience for the recipients is to make it as simple as possible for recipients.
Totally agree.
Volunteers, on the other hand, though, I think we can make somewhat different expectations of. But I don't think that fun impressive.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool. Alex is absolutely right. We got to figure out how to keep this really simple for the end users. But this could be a really powerful way of, if nothing else, showing them, here's what we're going to make for you once we figure that out.
Can you make like a model and like have different sets for it? Like this individual, were you just clicking through actual preset, or are you just changing like one or two colors?
Everything's predetermined. So,
sorry, have you templated the colors as well? Have you templated the colors for this model and as you were clicking around, or was that just?
Yeah, that's what those thumbnails at the bottom of the screen are. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, each of those thumbnails is a color template.
I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but you know what though? Maybe is it a programming solution, or is there something interactive where you can choose a color on that right side swat?
Oh, you mean like this image here?
No, okay, where it says PLA green, let's say you want to add a new color. Is that a programming task, or is that something to where...
That would be a setup task. So it wouldn't be programming. It would be, there is a kind of a browser dashboard, much like what you see up here, or let's say in here, where you don't need to know programming to add more materials.
Okay.
Programming would, from my experience with this, is just to kind of embed that iframe into your own site.
Okay.
But it's not something the end user would do, Alex. adding new colors or stuff. That's some stuff that we do on the back end.
Yeah, and that's something that the volunteer has to predetermine.
That's something to keep in mind. The other thing that's nice is this: if we could automatically, if there's a way we could contact this thing and get those snapshots of the hand, and then to be able to send those in an email to someone and say, hey, look, here's a picture of the hand that you're going to get. That would be powerful.
So one thing you can actually do here is, let's say, like as we were talking, I saved this image here. So if you click on the little camera icon, it saves a SolidWorks render actually, and we have that control to set like the ratio, the export as a JPEG, PNG. For instance, if you click on the bottom right hand here, it gives you a pop-up of that image that we could possibly do something with.
Okay. Yeah.
And even if it's a completely
I was thinking it'd be nice if there was a way to then save that to the case, like so you could save that within the case.
That's right.
And then that would be that would be great. Then all of that design work is then tracked and documented within the case.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our hope, Ed, is not only to save the an image, but also to generate the individual STL files for the parts at the appropriate scale. And it would actually, what this tool does is it actually generates sort of a build of materials for the fabricator. It says, here's each of the parts and here's what color to use for each part, and it has them properly scaled, so everything is ready to use. And then we could actually track those individual parts in e-NABLE Web Central so that the fabricator can kind of check them off as they print each of the parts or sets of parts off.
And yeah, so like this, for instance, Ed is a break. I used an e-commerce platform as my framework because I don't actually know how to code. So the backbone was an e-commerce platform. So an orders page was used to do a breakdown of the individual groupings of the hand. So we have corresponding parts, in which color, and how many units. So just one. And then this, I've been able to use a plugin that actually stores STL so that like on the same website you can download a zip file with everything you need to produce that. Which is just adding a few more files to the one that already is available.
This is going to, again, maybe go down geek territory, but if it were possible to make the SKUs composable, the SKU itself could contain, the part and the scaling dimensions. Is there, I don't know if those SKUs are assigned or how those are produced?
So right now the SKUs are based on two factors, which part and then which material is selected. So it'd be like palm green. One limitation to SolidWorks now is you can't change geometry at the moment. We can't size it. This just exports whatever size you uploaded it in.
Okay, understood.
But if we were to think of we have to let them pick which hand do I want. I want to change the aesthetics and then do the fit and form.
Right.
This toolkit could, we can help them if they get a better visualization of what hand I want. So like I need a wrist operated one, and then of course to pick the colors. Then maybe we can just use the existing method of taking photos as a short-term solution possibly. But then in future it'd be ideal to be able to change everything on in the one spot.
Well, and we could still do that. I mean, even if this tool doesn't support the scaling, as long as we can generate the STL files we need for design, doing a linear scaling on an STL file is pretty easy. I'm sure we can handle, getting a plugin or something that would do that for us. So then maybe we get the STL files, we scale them, and then feed that back into e-NABLE Web Central one way or another. I'm sure that's possible.
What we could do as well is upload start using brackets like small, medium, large. If we start to find that like 90%, 100, 110% start to come as the most popular, we can add, like right now I only have different colors here,
right?
But we can add this beside it, palm 100, 110%, 90% as different physical components. Mm-hmm. It's like if you ever used an assembly in SolidWorks or just any other CAD file, it will pull that body out of somewhere and then put it in.
Right. Yeah. The only challenge with that is then we'd have to. It adds a lot more management overhead because we'd have to maintain all those different sets of models, within the platform. And every time a design changes, we have to build a whole new set of models. So it might be easier for us just to let the person enter a percentage, even if it's something odd like 106%. We can easily scale any STL file to that specific percentage, and then just feed them that scaled file. So I don't know that we need to rely on the SolidWorks platform to do the sizing for us.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Anyone else have any questions for Jack?
Will you show us more soon, or is it going to be a final sort of a class project for this?
I've actually, I think that I won't be showing any more. What I could show is just all the findings out of it. My master's is coming to the end and stuff. But I could just share all the results at the end of all this and talk about all the different insights. Like I mentioned very briefly some of the high level feedback I got from fabricators, but taking into account yours, everything you guys mentioned here has been touched on in some way. So if you want, I could just give you to say that oh, this is the toolkit. I can show you maybe this is what would a 2.0 look like, or here are the other requirements from fabricators I've gotten.
That'd be cool. I'd like to see how this goes. I mean, already it's a functional system, but it looks like it can be anything at all.
Thank you. I can also go down into way more depth on the requirements for getting a hand uploaded in terms of like you need an OBJ file in an assembly file, and you need to know what materials you want and do you have those all created, and do you have an existing website you want to embed this in, and how to import the iframe, for instance, and how to get your SolidWorks style to communicate with an e-commerce platform or like an assistant if needed. That's a section I wouldn't know too much about, but that kind of stuff, it does exist.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Jack. If you want to turn off the screen share, then we can go on to the next item. Thanks very much. Very nice work.
Cheers. And I'll share the links to everything I've talked about in the notes today.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on to our individual updates. I shuffled things around here just because we have a lot more names on our list now, so I just put them all in alphabetical order. So, Alex, you're up first now.
Hang on. I'm supposed to be in the meeting notes, aren't I?
Oh, that might help, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could just provide a quick update. On EWC stats, before I pull up EWC stats, I was going to say we're entirely finished with the Atlas Kumu integration, and we're pushing out test data to a sample spreadsheet. I shouldn't say we're entirely. There's one last hitch, which is Jeremy and I have to meet and discuss filtering. We have a meeting set up at 1 p.m. today, and after that we can, I guess, officially consider it done. And we held off on deploying it. We're just manually running it to update the sheet, just to get some bug fixes in. And what is on that list of bug fixes? I don't know, just minor things, the responsive stuff. We added the medical professional verbiage. We had a bad link, which I fixed. Then we're making some modifications to EWC stats. So I think that's it in a nutshell. And the extent of the stats that I need to present to you today are, as of today, we have 90 accepted devices, and it looks like right now, fully staffed cases is currently 88. And so what's coming in the next week, after Jeremy and I meet and discuss those items, we've already gone through the estimates on the next batch of EWC functionality. I assume at some point we're going to start picking items for the usability enhancements and start elaborating specs and assigning those to Guillermo. So I've held off again, like I said, on the release. I think that after the current quick fixes he finishes, we could target a release, I want to say next week. As long as we manually run the Kumu update, we can hold off as long as we like, but eventually we'd like to get that stuff out there. And so after that release, again, somewhere I think within the week range, we can expect to begin the usability initiative.
Great. Anything else?
That's all for now.
All right. So just moving on in alphabetical order, it looks like Ed was able to join us today. Welcome, Ed. You want to? I didn't have a chance to have you give an introduction last time, so maybe you could introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on a train, so excuse me if there is if there's announcements about the late running of the train that interrupts me. But so yeah, my name's Ed Gregg. I am the chief disruptor for Deloitte here in the UK. So my job and the disruptions team job is basically to work with new technologies and understand how we can get them delivering a tangible benefit to our clients and to Deloitte as quickly as possible. And so we've been, I think I've been part of the e-NABLE community since 2015, and we started with a single kind of case we were working on in 2017. And we've kind of grown from there. I think we added another person today. I think we're now up to, 11 or 12 cases that we're working on simultaneously. We need to add them all to e-NABLE Red Central. I've just, we're on the verge of doing that, so they'll all be added to EWC. But we, the first case that we worked on was a girl called Phoebe, and her story has kind of resonated really strongly within our firm, within Deloitte. And it's also, her dad actually works for Dell, and it's also resonated very strongly within Dell. And so the teams there are kind of keen to explore how we can use the Deloitte and Dell to increase the impact and help the e-NABLE community. So not just print devices, but also actually how we can more broadly help the community. But we're very conscious of doing that within the framework of the community as it exists, and evolving things and enabling, no pun intended, rather than trying to create something ourselves, or shape them in our own image, kind of thing. So that's very much the way that we're looking at it. So yeah, that's kind of a bit about us, and we've got quite a big team working on this now. So yeah, there's really good levels of engagement within the firm. So yeah, any questions on that? Because if not, then the other thing is, as part of this, we were talking to Adobe this week, and they are looking for a Adobe for Good initiative, and they're looking for something where they can use their kind of employee skills and where they can use their tools as well. And so they were talking about doing that on kind of like having a backlog with somewhere and working, using the tools to kind of deliver things for kind of an organization. And I think that's something that for a lot of traditional charities, I think that might not work for them, because that sort of kind of ad hoc approach, I think, wouldn't work so well. But I think for a community, like bringing them in and making them part of a community, that approach might be more feasible. So but I wanted to kind of get a feel from the SPC beforehand, because I mean, obviously they'll want to promote this. I mean, their idea is that they would do a story about this at their at the what do they call it? Their Adobe. I can't remember. They have a big summit every year. It's about to be in Las Vegas, the US one, and then the EMEA one is in London in May. And so they would be looking to kind of feature whichever organization they work with. They would be looking to kind of feature a story about them. And I said very clearly, that if we were to do this, you could only feature something if there was very demonstrable, tangible benefit that you had already delivered by May. It's not good enough to do a big, some sort of big launch at your summit if you haven't got, if there's not kind of work there, because, not to cast aspersions, but some big organizations do have a tendency to go big on the PR and lighter on the actual work. And so I made it very clear to them that we wouldn't allow that to happen. So yeah, that would be the deal. I mean, it would be a good platform potentially for kind of spreading the news, and I like the fact that the usability initiative is something that you guys were discussing as a need, and that's something that they would be looking specifically to address. So it's not like they would be partner in search of a problem to solve. Like, it would be addressing a specific need. So yeah, that was my feeling on that. It'd be interesting to hear anyone's kind of thoughts on that.
It's great timing. We were just talking about this. For the rest of the folks here, we actually just had a call recently. John Scholl and myself and Martin from the community talked with Ed and a bunch of others from Deloitte. And among other things, we were talking about our plans to make improvements to enable Web Central. We want to make it a lot easier to use. We want to replace a lot of the wording with graphics and animations and things like that. But we don't have people to do that. So we talked about that in our meeting. So it's really interesting that this comes up right at this time where we need exactly that. We need some good graphics people and animation people. And I don't know, it seems to me like this might be a really interesting fit. Anyone else have input?
Yeah.
I got, hey Ed, well, welcome first of all.
Hi, and really nice work on the OPC stuff. Really liked it.
Cheers. I were the local chapter in Limerick in Ireland. A lot of our volunteers come from like the local art college, and some of the tools, like some of our most dedicated volunteers are like fashion designers, for instance. What we've witnessed with our group is people come and kind of bring their own unique set of skills, and they see themselves in these kind of projects. So much so that like since the fashion designers got involved, we now consider the non-3D printed parts a lot more. So what we kind of witnessed was, let's say these people from Adobe, if they got hands-on with the project, they'll see something that we wouldn't see, and then be like, how about this, guys? And we kind of found that kind of approach to work for us here. So like for instance, one of our next events after we ran a family day it's going to be how to modify clothing for families. And this has nothing really to do with the 3D printed enable hands, but that's something that our volunteers can do and want to kind of show off or help the parents and stuff. So there could be something that might happen with that kind of event or workshop, let's say.
Yeah, I mean that's so cool that that sort of thing is happening. I think, and yeah, I mean, I think the more perspectives that are involved in something like this, I think the better in terms of, in terms of kind of seeing these different avenues and ways in which kind of different people can get involved. So, yeah, I think that would be a good opportunity. And I mean, I think if it resonates as well within Adobe as it has here, people will really be looking to kind of come forward with their individual skill sets and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's something that's so great about this is people are like looking for a way to help rather than saying like, sort of, this is the job. They are really actively looking for a way to kind of contribute. So I think, yeah, that's really exciting to hear. I mean, I love the idea of the faction workshops and organised by the chapter as well. I think that would be something that's really cool to explore.
Yeah, we actually did the event for it's a UK group actually called reach.org. They're actually from the UK if you want to maybe get a hold of them, because there are a few chapters scattered. They may be worth contacting if we're running one over on your side.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, so when we had the conversation with John, Jeremy, and Martin, that was when we realized we really needed to set up a chapter and set up in that kind of way. So we're starting on that journey, but it will be good to, it'll be great to kind of do that and then link up with the other chapters as well.
Yeah, still.
Great. Well, as Jack said, welcome to the group, Ed. We're thrilled to have you. Okay, let's move on then. Anyone else here? Let's see. We don't have. Sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
I mean, just on that, then, are you guys then happy for me to? Train. Are you guys then happy for me to go ahead and kind of move that forward and introduce the Adobe team to to you guys, to the SPC and stuff? Are you happy to continue exploring that? Any kind of caveats that you want me to put in terms of, other than they have to actually deliver something before they make a big announcement at their summit?
I think it's excellent. I definitely think we should proceed and at least explore it with them. And I think you already wisely addressed the only thing that I would have pointed out, which is, as you said, making sure that they've actually had an impact before they start publicizing it. But other than that, I'm perfectly comfortable with you continuing these discussions.
Perfect. I mean, we've said to them that we think that they should adopt kind of an experimental approach, like piloting approach with the various organizers, because there's a couple of other organizations they might work with. So yeah, we've kind of hopefully set expectations with them around that. But yeah, I'll reach out to them, and I think they're very enthusiastic, and yeah, let's look at how we can deliver it.
Great, very nice. Okay, so several other people that aren't with us this week. Jack, you're on the list here. Any other updates other than what you already shared with us?
Actually, I think the Reach event I mentioned earlier, the last time I was online was saying I was going to do it, so it happened. We had over 16 families, over 50 members from the Reach community.
I'm sorry, how many families?
16. 16 nice. Families with plus ones, relatives, siblings as well, grandparents and friends. It was packed, and that was hosted in the local Fab Lab Limerick. So it was an information gathering event for them, and they travelled from all across Ireland to attend, as far as up north in Sligo, which will be about a 4-hour drive to come. So they were all really grateful and they were really interested in about e-NABLE. Some of the outputs were, the first one was the workshop on how to modify clothing. That was just listening and talking on the day, and that just kind of organically happened. And we also would just redirect people towards the e-NABLE Web Central and just let them know that there's a presence in Ireland, and here we are. So it was very good day.
Nice. Any other updates?
Nope, that's it. That's everything.
Great. All right. It looks like Jen isn't here, so I'm up next. Not really much to report, just really the usual administrative stuff. So I've got a summary of our tickets here for our support ticketing system. We already closed out January before I added in February statistics. So far we've had 58 badge requests this month. Just 4 e-NABLE support tickets and 44 e-NABLE Web Central support tickets. So that's for the month to date. And then I put the totals in here for the program so far down below if anyone is interested. So that's all I got right now. See who else we have with us. Maria already gave her update. Michelle is out today. Patrick, you still with us? Any updates for us?
Just a broad one. I bought a printer by price point, and it's the size of an aquarium. So I'm deciding if that's going to be the device I keep or return it within the return window.
Got it.
So just kind of researching it.
Cool.
And spatial stuff. That's it.
Fun. All right. And then Sean isn't here. Okay, so we'll move on. I did add in a note here on our agenda about this corporate social responsibility initiative from Adobe, but we've already covered that. So I'll keep it on the agenda for future discussion. Next topic here is about e-NABLE chapters. And that's, I think at this point, it's really just a note. We're moving along with our process of using the badges for people to get approved with chapters. So once the chapter is set up, you basically get a Facebook page or a website up, you apply for this e-NABLE Community Chapter badge, and once you've received that badge, then we use that as evidence that the chapter is legitimate, and we put you on the map. All right, so John is in charge of that. We'll get an update from him on how that's going next time. The badging process seems to be going well. Lots of tickets going through, and they're all being handled in a very timely manner, thanks to the efforts of Bob Rieger and Wayne Munslow. Bob's out of town right now, so Wayne's handling all those tickets in his absence. John did this proposal recently for a propose a badge process, which was approved. So I guess we haven't really fully implemented that yet, but if anybody out there does want to propose a badge, you're welcome to email me, and we'll figure out how to get it implemented until we get a more, formalized process in place. We are also going to do some cleanup to get rid of some of the badges that just aren't being used. Bob did some analysis and put together a list of all the badges that have never been issued or haven't been issued in a long time. And we're not going to remove the badges that have been issued, but we're probably going to take them off of the enablingthefuture.org site just because they don't seem like they're of interest. So there's no reason to have them cluttering up those pages. So we'll do that soon. Project proposals, nothing new. This week we have no active proposals. The last one was that one from John that I just mentioned. So nothing going right now in the way of new Lumio proposals. And then the next topic here is funding. I don't know if anyone else here has anything to report. I don't think I have any updates except for the fact that we do have plenty of e-NABLE kits available right now. Thanks to that generous donation we had from one call back in, I think that was in December. They donated 250 kits. And other people have donated kits since then as well. So even though we've sent out, I don't know, I think a couple dozen kits since then, we still have just over 250 kits available because of other donations being made. So, this is especially a good fit for, schools or chapters or groups that might need, a dozen kits or 20 kits or whatever. Reach out to me. I can get you those kits, and we can get them to you at no charge thanks to these donations. What else? John has been updating us on alternatives to the Google Plus community, and it sounds like this platform called WikiFactory is a really good candidate. So he's pursuing that. We'll get an update from him when he's back next. And we've talked about putting together a calendar of e-NABLE events, and I think Maria has some people that'll be able to help us with that, so we'll need to get an update from her next time. And then we've just got a list of e-NABLE resources here. We don't need to talk through those. Upcoming presentations, I don't have anything scheduled. I've got a number of things that were tentative. We're going to have Maria present about some educational materials. Bob is going to present about his findings from putting together all these different types of device designs. Dean, who joined us last week, is going to give us another presentation about that electric design he's working on. And John will give us a summary of his travels in Asia, but I don't have dates on any of those yet, so we'll try to get those scheduled in. So I don't have anything else on the agenda, so let me just ask if anybody else here has anything that you'd like to talk about. Otherwise, we're at our hour anyway. Anyone? No?
What was that at e-NABLE conference or e-NABLE Con again?
Say that again?
Is the e-NABLE Con or the e-NABLE conference like the big meetup?
Yes, yes. Do I have the dates in here? Where is that? I might not have it in this one. Maria is running that, and she did give us those dates, but I don't remember if they're in the notes here, so I might have to go back to prior notes and find that and put it in here. I don't know where they are right now.
And is anyone able to attend that, like even now, or how does that work if people wanted to attend that again?
Oh, absolutely. It's open to everyone. I believe, just going from memory here, I want to say it's in early October, but I'll dig up the dates. So yeah, everybody is welcome to attend. I believe there will be an online registration when Maria should be sharing those details through the e-NABLE Alliance website. So we'll have to get those specifics from her, but yes, everybody is welcome to attend.
Sweet.
Okay, so I will get a recording out a little bit later on, and we'll regroup again next Friday. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.